It was written in 1785, a year after his death, his signature preserved in an official archive. The name? Count of Saint-Germain. He'd already been buried, mourned, and yet he was back. He'd dined with kings, spied for the highest bidder, and never seemed to age. For centuries his shadows surfaced at royal courts and revolutions alike, always whispering in the right ears, always unchanged. They said he'd lived for 1,000 years, that he'd met Christ himself, but the records say he died in 1784. But 1 year later, he signed back in. To understand that signature, you have to know the man who left it. In London, 40 years before that signature, Britain was hunting spies. The Jacobite rebellion had flared and suspicion is everywhere. A man is seized in a coffee house near Leicester Fields. He gave no birthplace, no family, no age, only a title, the Count of Saint-Germain. He moved easily in the highest society. Horace Walpole, the British Prime Minister's son, writes that year,
"An odd man who goes by the name of Count Saint-Germain has been here these 2 years. He sings, plays the violin wonderfully, and is mad. He has been taken up as a spy, but nothing has been made out against him."
Within days, the man is free again, uncharged, unexplained, unforgettable. Back in London's upper circles, like someone both foreign and familiar. He speaks of ancient courts and vanished kings, as if recalling old friends. People begin to ask, is he describing history or remembering it? By 1748, the same man appears in France, at the very centre of the French court. At Versailles, he dressed in black silk and diamonds, rings on every finger. He charmed the salons, played the violin to ladies' tears, and debated philosophers in their own language. Louis XV took notice. The king funds him in a private laboratory at Chateau de Chambord to develop new dyes and cosmetics. Voltaire, France's most famous writer and sharpest observer of the 1750s, writes with irony, "The Count of Saint-Germain is a man who never dies, and who knows everything." Casanova, the Venetian diarist and infamous libertine, met him in 1757. He called him the celebrated and learned impostor, but admits, "He astonished me, always." Then, without warning, the laboratory is empty. The Count of Saint-Germain vanishes from the most powerful court in Europe. The Hague. A familiar name appears in diplomatic reports. Saint-Germain is trying to broker peace in the 7 Years' War, an unauthorized mission that enrages France's foreign minister. An arrest warrant follows. The Dutch refuse to hand him over. With a borrowed British passport, the Count escapes again. Over the next years, he flickers across Europe, Prussia, Russia, Austria. Some claim to have seen him at St. Peter's during Catherine the Great's coup. Wherever he surfaces, witnesses describe the same man. Cultivated, secretive, mid-40s, handsome. Decades roll past, faces change, power shifts. But not the Count of Saint-Germain. He remains 45. Always 45. By 1779, he finds refuge with Prince Charles of Hesse-Kassel, governor of Schleswig. The prince builds him a tower laboratory and refers to him as one of the greatest philosophers who ever lived. For 5 years, Saint-Germain experimented with alloys and dyes, more chemist than conjurer. His letters grow humbler. His failures outnumber his triumphs. But the prince still believes. On the 27th of February 1784, the man who is said to never die, dies. The parish register of St. Nikolai Church in Eckernford reveals it plainly. 27th of February 1874, deceased. 2nd of March, buried. The self-styled Count of Saint-Germain. His gravesite is unknown, unmarked. Weeks later, the town council auctioned his effects, a few suits, razors, 82 silver coins, but no jewels, no elixir, no violin. Prince Charles donates the laboratory to the state. The legend, it seems, ended in paperwork. Except a year later, at a Masonic Congress in Wilhelmsbad, a delegate signs the role as Count of Saint-Germain. The name should be impossible, yet there it is in the minutes, permanent, undeniable. Countess Gabrielle d'Adhemar, lady-in-waiting to Marie Antoinette, and a woman who had known Saint-Germain at Versailles decades earlier, swore that he visited her in Paris 5 years after his recorded death. She had dined with him, spoke with him. She knew his face as well as her own. He looked exactly the same as he had in 1760. He warned her that the French monarchy would fall. She later published the account herself. He had not aged a day and foretold the coming of blood. Months later, the revolution began, a bloody overthrowing of the monarchy. Her old mistress, Marie Antoinette, would meet her end on the guillotine. Prince Charles, who buried the Count, also wrote that my friend's counsel still guides me. Perhaps metaphor, perhaps not. Decades after both were dead, an English journalist, Albert Van Dam, described meeting a mysterious Major Fraser, a man who never ate in company, and spoke of Nero and Cleopatra as if from memory. French historians later compared the description to Saint-Germain's and found every detail the same. His speech, his manner, even his claim of impossible memory. They concluded Major Fraser may not have been a stranger at all, but the Count of Saint-Germain, still walking the salons of Europe unchanged. These weren't rumours from the street. They came from people who'd known him in life. A lady-in-waiting who danced with him. A prince who had buried him. Each certain they saw the same man, unchanged. They recognised his voice, his posture, even the rings he wore. Not a ghost, not a presence. Solid, breathing. Impossible. Historians call it a coincidence, a collective memory. But soon something else would surface, something no misremembered face could explain. A trace left in ink, proof that the Count of Saint-Germain was still signing his name. Even in the 19th century, his name kept surfacing. Napoleon III ordered a secret investigation into the man who wouldn't die. The report was finished, but before it was published, the Tuileries Palace burned. Every record was lost. Remember that signature? It was found in the minutes of the Freemasons' Congress at Wilmshead Bad, dated 1785. The name reads clearly, Count of Saint-Germain. Handwriting experts later compared it to a verified signature from his lifetime and found it an exact match. A year after his death, the Count of Saint-Germain left proof he was still a power. He died in 1784, but the world never stopped seeing him. Maybe immortality isn't living forever. Maybe it's refusing to vanish. Proof of those who survived death can be found all around us. One man called his colleague 20 years after he died. The call was recorded. You can hear it for yourself. Click the end card and uncover Constantine Raudive and the tape of his phone call from the other side. I'm Nico, and I'll meet you in the next mystery.